It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
Hey guys, how is it going? And welcome to the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. It is Friday, June 28th, and so happy for you joining us. We are ready to start another day together with the Lord. So subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So today we have an exciting podcast for you. We have Until the End with Daniel Baker, the Wednesday Message Word Study, and of course commentaries, updates, and news on what is happening around the world in this history today. All right, everyone, how are you doing? And yes, it is Friday. TGIF, thank God it is Friday. We have the weekend upon us. Hope you guys are looking forward to another weekend. Don't forget, we have Q&A Thursday every single week. If you missed yesterday's questions, go ahead, check them out. But we have it every single week, so send them to me whenever you can. You can do it through comments or DMs or whatever it is like that, right? And if you haven't yet, leave a like and comment to build our community for today's video. Click that like button. Just super happy for everyone joining us every weekday on the Morning Star Drive. So let's get up and support each other each and every day. This week's Sunday message title is, God has been giving us everything He needed to give us at each time and fulfilling all the will. The second title, you will connect only if you know. You will open your eyes only if you take action. All right? So yes, it is Friday, guys. I am super happy and excited that we are here at the weekend. For me, like I said, it was a week of being with an American team, 7 people, just going around, hanging out, having fun, sightseeing and stuff like that too. So I do need this weekend to rest a bit and kind of start from scratch again from next week. But I am very thankful that the weekend is here. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I am going to meet someone, a friend of mine, a non-member from the former faith church that I was kind of visiting every once in a while. So I'll be meeting that friend on Saturday. But overall, sorry, I had to get my drink of coffee. Overall, it's a pretty open weekend. I will be playing volleyball. It's still Thursday for me right now, but I will be playing volleyball on Thursday night. Friday, I'm not sure. I do feel like I really need to get back into exercise again because all my friends are exercising except me, and I feel really small because I don't have as much muscle as I did before. I feel very emasculated at this point. Oh, but let me start with a joke. I haven't done a joke in a long time, all right? So let me do this joke for you, okay? So in New York, there's a store. Okay, this is a joke, remember? In New York, there's a store that sells husbands, right? It just opened, New York City, it's Manhattan, and a woman can go into this store to choose a husband. Now, among the instructions at the entrance is a description of how the store operates. It says, you may visit the store only once, okay? You may choose any man from a particular floor, or you may choose to go up a floor, but you cannot go back down except to exit the building. So, a woman goes to the husband store to find a husband. On the first floor, the sign on the door reads, Floor 1. These men have jobs and they love the Lord. And you're like, whoa, that's pretty good. So, the woman looks and says, oh, this is really good. I wonder what's on the second floor. She walks up to the second floor. And remember, you can't go back down again, right? Second floor, the sign reads, these men have jobs, love the Lord, and love kids. And she's like, wow, that is amazing. You know what? Let me go check out the third floor. So she walks up to the third floor. And this sign reads, these men have jobs, love the Lord's, love the kids, and are extremely good looking. And this woman's like, wow. And she's like, man, should I stay here? But she's like, you know what? I feel compelled to keep going. She goes to the fourth floor. The sign reads, these men have jobs, love the Lord, love kids, are drop dead gorgeous, good looking, and help with the housework. And the woman's like, oh, mercy me. She exclaims, I can hardly stand it. But let's go check what's on the fifth floor. So she goes to the fifth floor. And the fifth floor reads this. These men have jobs, love the Lord, love kids, drop dead gorgeous, help with the housework, and have a strong romantic streak. Now she's so tempted to stay. But she says there's one more floor left. I've got to check this out. She goes up to the 6th floor, and the sign reads, "You are visitor 42,363,012 to this floor. There are no men on this floor. This floor exists solely as proof that women are impossible to please. Thank you for shopping at the husband store. Watch your step as you exit the building and have a nice day." Yes. I love that joke. And guess what? I just heard this joke from I think it's like Pastor Joyce Meyer. She's a woman pastor, and she's the one that did this joke. So it's from a woman. I got this from a woman, so please don't get upset at me and say you're misogynist and stuff, because I'm not. Although some people say I could be. Right? So, yeah. And you know what? This has everything to do with the second, this other YouTube short that I was watching. And I thought this was a very, very good statement for people who are doing social media and YouTubing and such. Like, this is for my, like for me, I thought this was great advice for me as I'm doing YouTube out in social media. There's a lot of people saying some crazy stuff about me and stuff. And what this person said was, he said, never take criticism from someone you wouldn't ask for advice from. Right? It's very interesting, right? Never take criticism from someone you wouldn't ask for advice from. That, I think, is quite interesting. I do think that's interesting because, yeah, why would you care about what someone says about you or criticism someone says about you if this is someone you wouldn't even trust to ask for advice from? And this is not, I'm not saying this has something to do in Providence. I'm saying this has to do with like me being in the social media world. And I do think as your children, a lot of you guys out there are blessed families. You're going to have children. A lot of people are teenagers and stuff like that. And they are affected by what people write to them, right? And I think this is great advice. The great advice is, never take criticism from someone who you never ask advice from. And that also reminds me of like something that Christian Bale said. Christian Bale said if you have something to say about me, if you have something that's if you want to say something that's bad about me, then call me. And if you don't have my phone number, then it was something like, then I don't really care what you say. You don't have the right to tell me I don't have to care about what you have to say about me because you're not someone that I really know or trust, kind of thing, right? So I think that is something that in this world of social media and such, I think it's something that we really do need to take into consideration. Is there's a lot of people out there, but guess what? In most cases, those trolls and the things that people say against us, it doesn't really matter. It really doesn't. These are just people that are out there commenting on what you have. And it's kind of, people take these things, I think, a little too seriously. Oh, as I'm sipping my coffee right now, I saw this awesome coffee research done by, I believe it's done by the University of Minho School of Medicine. And this is in Portugal, okay? So here it is. So this is the coffee research. So this is, it says, I'll read you some of the article. It says, as the true connoisseurs already know and scientists are now discovering, a good cup of coffee isn't just about its caffeine content, right? So caffeine, which also occurs naturally in tea and cocoa, is just part of the picture. So researchers at the University of Minho School of Medicine in Portugal used MRI scans to observe 83 people before and after their morning coffee. Among the volunteers, 47 were scanned before drinking a cup of coffee, then again 30 minutes after. 36 others were given caffeine diluted in hot water rather than coffee, but underwent the same scans 30 minutes after. What did the scans reveal, my friends? They said that after their drink, both groups had decreased activity in a part of the brain that puts people in a resting state. So that's what caffeine does, obviously, right? And this meant all the volunteers were more ready to start their days and engage with others after consuming a beverage. Now, the scans also revealed that those that drank a cup of coffee increased activity in parts of the brain involved with short-term memory, attention, and focus, while people who just drank caffeine did not. Tell me that's crazy, guys. I'm not telling you guys to drink coffee. I'm not going to say that you should, but if you want to start the day well and you want better, increased activity in short-term memory, attention, and focus, well, then a cup of coffee, more than just getting caffeine, is the way to go. Now, okay, so we're going to get more into the details of it, but scientists think, so they're not even sure about this, but they think that some of it could be a placebo, meaning the sight, smell, or taste of coffee may help people feel alert, regardless of the caffeine content. But they say that, people who don't usually drink coffee may not experience the same effects, right? So there's this nutritional psychiatrist at Harvard Medical School, and they said the sight of coffee may trigger positive memories or beliefs in some people, and the visual impact of coffee is powerful. And it could be like, they can look at the coffee and say, oh, there's something that gives me energy now. I'm going to have something that gives me that second wind I need at work or to study, right? So, that is a possibility. That is not actually, it's just what they think, right? But so far, what we see is the people that did drink coffee 30 minutes after, what is it? It's short-term memory, attention, and focus went up. The activity went up in the brain. Okay, so the big question now from this study is coffee healthy or not? Okay, and of course, out there's evidence that it's good for you if consumed in moderation. Okay. Now, the Mayo Clinic, very, very famous clinic in the U.S., says coffee may offer some protection against Parkinson's disease, type 2 diabetes, liver disease, heart attack, and stroke. But it cautions that coffee's high caffeine content can temporarily raise blood pressure, which is not good for women who are pregnant or trying to become pregnant or breastfeeding. Right? And these are the people that really need to, the women in that situation need to be very cautious when it comes to drinking caffeine, right? High intake of boiled, unfiltered coffee is associated with mild increase in cholesterol levels. So that is the group of people that has to watch out for that. But the overall evidence, and this comes from the chair of the Department of Nutrition at Harvard's University, Chan School of Public Health, said the overall evidence has been pretty convincing that coffee has been more healthful than harmful in terms of health outcomes. For most people, moderate coffee consumption can be incorporated into a healthy diet. And of course, what is what is moderation? Moderation doesn't mean once a week. It actually is once a day. And it's up to 2 cups a day. And they said that the amount of caffeine that a human, like a regular average adult, can handle is about 2 grandes a day. About. A little bit less, right? So if you're just drinking 1 coffee a day, it's considered moderate, which is quite shocking because you think that would mean someone who's really into coffee, but it's considered a moderate amount. So moderate coffee consumption can be incorporated in a healthy diet, and it's going to be more healthful than harmful. Ha ha! And that makes me feel much better, right? And I know, guys, I know some of you are going to say sometimes you drink more than 1 cup of coffee. Sometimes I drink 3. And yes, I am not going to, I'm not going to deny that. I'm not in denial with that. Sometimes I do because it's like a super crazy day, right? Sometimes when I'm with, I'm touring people and driving around a lot, sometimes I'm tired like that too. And I would say that it's something that, there's some, but it's not all the time. Usually I'm at about 1 cup a day. Usually that's my normal. Even right now, drinking my cup of coffee, did not go out for the coffee. I just made some filtered coffee at home. That's what I did. It was a drip bag. Right? And I use that to drink coffee when I'm at home and when I'm just chilling and relaxing. And it's Thursday. Once I finish today's podcast, I'm actually done for the weekend. And for the rest of Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, I don't have any podcasts to do. I'll just be working on the Rebel Pastor YouTube channel more than all the other different things. So very, very happy and excited about that too. Okay. So there is this comment that came up on and guess what? Just to let you guys know, I am going to do the Sunseam's PROVI in the media. I'm gonna go over Sunseam's trial today because excellent article came out, and I think it's something that people should read sooner than later, right? So I will talk about that in a few moments, okay? But there was a comment, and this comment was asking, I would like to know how we can deal with the topic of LGBTQ because it's annoying sometimes. I normally say to people, I respect them doing things within themselves, but I can't be supportive as it's against the natural law. I would like to hear how Pastor Scott responds to this or give some opinions. Okay, so I would say it really depends on who you talk to. It really does. It really depends on who you talk to. For instance, I know there's some people out there, they're just there to pick a fight. They just want to argue with you, and you can see that they're just saying this question, and they're kind of like kind of getting antsy, like, okay, so what do you think about this? And for me, those people talking to them is not worth fighting. It really isn't. And I just kind of say, oh, it's like people can do whatever they want, and I just kind of like I don't agree with it, but people can do whatever they want. It's your life, and I'll just move forward because it's not worth the time and effort to fight and argue with someone. I don't think so, right? And if it's someone who I feel is genuinely curious and wants a real discussion, I would go a little bit deeper into it, but not too much. And I would be strong in my stance, and I would be very confident as in, this is my religious belief. This is what I actually believe. I don't agree with the LGBTQ lifestyle. It's against my religion and what I believe in. However, I also will not press my beliefs on others, and people have their own free will and decisions for their own life. People can do what they want with their life. I won't force them to change, and I won't tell them to change. Now, if people want to have an open discussion about it, I will do it, but there is no need to fight about it. That's for me. And, some people might say, like, even for me as someone who's a believer in God, I would say that I still love them. I love them, but I don't agree with what they do. And for some people, this does sound weird to them because they'll be like, how can you love someone but hate the way they live? And I'd be like, we do this all the time. We do it all the time. It's possible to love someone even though you don't agree with what they're doing, how they're living their life. Like, think about it even in terms of, imagine you have a child. Imagine you have a very, very good or close friend. And even if that child is doing something you don't agree with, let's say everyone probably agrees with, doing really, really hard drugs. We're like going, yeah, we don't agree with that lifestyle. It's very harmful to others, whatever it is, right? So I'll say, yeah, I don't agree with that. But can you say that you hate your child because they're like a drug addict? And the answer is no. You still love your child. You still love your best friend, even though they're doing something that you don't agree with. And it's true. If my child had a drug problem, I completely disagree and I hate what they're doing. But I love them. And I'll pray for them. And I'll help them whenever they need it. And it's very, very possible to love someone even though you hate the lifestyle or you don't agree with the lifestyle that they're living. So for me, I would kind of go into that area. I wouldn't go too deep into it, right? Because, in the end, it comes down to what? It comes down to people's beliefs, right? It's like, hey, do you believe in freedom of religion? Absolutely. And I believe that it's, my religion, and I believe absolutely that it's not the right lifestyle. However, I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. You can live the life that you want. I'm not going to hate you for it. I might not like that part of your lifestyle, but I'm not going to hate you for it. And I still love you as a person, right? So, I think that's something that we have to be very clear about is we still love them. And we can love people even though we don't like the things that they do, right? And I think that's kind of just a normal part of life, and this is part of what love is. And it doesn't, like, imagine if you had a best friend that all of a sudden turned gay. It's not gonna be all of a sudden you hate them or all of a sudden you stop hanging out with them, right? Like, of course, I would stop hanging out with a friend. The only time I would stop hanging out with a friend who changed and like all of a sudden became like gay or something like that, is if they started to push it on me and start to tell me that I have to accept them and have to say that this is something that I have to agree with. Like, that would be a reason why I would stop hanging out with them, right? And I would say that this would probably be true with most people also, right? So I would say that's kind of the reason behind, that's how I would handle it. And in most cases, yeah, even if someone wanted to discuss it, I probably wouldn't even want to discuss it anyways, but I would just tell them I love them. You're free to do whatever you want. May not agree with it, but it's not going to stop me from loving you. It's not going to stop me from hanging out with you. The only time I would stop hanging out with someone like that is if they did something like that, like try to press it on me and tell me I have to agree with it or not, right? So that's how I would handle it. I'm not sure, like some of you guys are out there in the comment section. Yeah, go ahead, write down how you would do it, if you would do it any way differently, right? Like for me, I think some fights are just they're useless. Like there's no need to be fighting over those types of things. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. If you agree with it, disagree with it, or if it's something that you handle it in a different way. Would love to hear what you guys think about that too. Right? So yeah, that's something that I thought was a very good question from the comment section. Oh, you know what? Excuse me. I heard something really deep the other day. And the thing that this person said was, one of their favorite quotes was, sometimes when you're in a dark place, you think you've been buried, but actually you've been planted. And I was like, wow, that's so deep. Especially for us as people of faith, when it comes to our relationship with God and the life that we're living each and every day, that is something that I think holds so true to our lives. When we go to these tribulations and these dark places, we think that we've been buried, especially in 2023. But instead of being buried, you have to realize you've been planted by God. And I think that's something we need to realize about ourselves, realize about how God works with us, and how much we feel that things have been, sometimes we think that our lives have been destroyed, our life is over. But from God's point of view, we have to realize God is seeing things so far ahead, right? And when he looks at what you go through right now, you may think that it's all over, but it's just one of those, it's just one of those, what do you call it, like a footstep, right? It's a place for us to step to move forward for the future. We may not even know why we're doing it like this, but it's something for us to look at for the future. And sometimes, sometimes just because God is using a situation, right? Just because God is using a situation for you to move ahead, right? Like say something injustice or something wrong happens to you, it doesn't mean that the injustice or the thing that happened to you is right. You know? Like that was from a question that I believe from Vancouver, there's Karen that brought up reading the book of Jeremiah, where Babylon was given permission, right? They were given permission to take over Israel or to take over Judah, and then later they get punished. Why? Because what they did is still wrong, right? Which means that even in your life, I know we need to take things in the right, take it in the right way, meaning something bad happened to you, someone did some injustice or wrong to you, and then you take it in stride, kind of like Joseph, like, okay, God is leading me in the right direction. I'm going to take what it is, right? But we have to understand that God can still use what is wrong and against us, injustice, to push us to another destination that is far better. Like, look at what happened to Sunseem too. Remember when Sunseem was there for 10 years? Being there, he can focus solely on the word, not focusing on other different things, meeting people and stuff like that, where he's able to receive the words of the complete testament, right? He's able to get to realize the soul. He's realizing the Holy Son. He's realizing deeper about the purpose of creation and the rapture because of the situation that he's in. But it doesn't mean that it's not injustice or wrong, right? All those things that happen, it's going to happen. But God can still use it for the better. And the people that did the wrong to you, they're going to get their judgment after anyways. Right? And all these things God can use according to his plan. And I think that's something that we have to really take into consideration. Right? And, I love it that when we think about it in this way, even 2023, we weren't being buried. No. We're being planted. We're being put in, taken care of, fertilized for something much bigger in the future, which is happening right now. Yeah. Going through that difficulty, why is it so good for us? Well, you got to think about it. It's so good for us because it allows us to become stronger so that we can handle situations much better. We'll handle it without freaking out. We'll handle it without making the wrong choices or the wrong decisions, right? So if you think about it, I think that's something that we all have to take into consideration is, yeah, sometimes, especially being believers of God, especially being the people that God truly loves, God is planning great things for us. And if we understand this even better, what does that mean? If God is doing better things for us, that means for us is no matter what happens, even if it's injustice, even if something completely wrong against us, God will use that to catapult us for something better in the future. That's what's going to happen, right? Like even something like the pandemic happening, pandemic's not a good thing. However, it catapulted me to do the podcast. And because of this podcast, many people were helped during 2023. It was a preparation for that very moment, right? I don't know what the future is going to be about this podcast, but all the difficulties and the things that are going on and all the things that I see that like, oh my gosh, what do you do about this? What do you do about this? It's all going to catapult us to the next level, right? Like even if I look at remember, think about me. I was using the church studio, but then I can't use it anymore, and it catapults me to the next level. Like, oh, there's a better place. There's a far better place that's leading to another better place, right? We are not always going to be there's no such thing as, I would say, there's no such thing as the end. There's always something better that we're reaching towards, right? There's always something better that we have to reach towards. Okay, so yeah, that was something that I listened to. I was like, wow, that's something I think God is really speaking to my heart in that area for. Okay, now last but not least, I do want to go into this awesome article. Okay, so the trial was on what day was it on? It was on Tuesday, right? So the trial was on Tuesday, and I was waiting for I saw some of the articles come out, talking to some friends who actually went to Sunseam's trial. And I was just like, oh, what's going on? What's the details? And I was trying to look at it, and I looked at some of it. Some of it I didn't fully understand. So what I decided to do, what happened yesterday, thank God, was a new article came out, and I think it's from the site called jmsprovidence.com. Right? And this is a great article about the trial that just happened on Tuesday. Okay? The title, and they did a great job of putting like other news articles together to kind of give us an overall view of what happened, right? So the title is "The Trial of Sunseam Failed to Admit the Evidence Due to No Original File. The Burden of Proof Lies with the Prosecution." Okay, so what it says is, since the beginning of the trial, even from the first trial, an audio file without evidentiary capability was admitted as evidence in the first trial. The court determined that the burden of proof for the admission of evidence lies with the prosecution. And based on the results of the private appraisal, a complaint will be filed against those involved in manipulating the audio file. Okay, so what's happening? It says the second trial of Sunseam of CGM was held on the 25th at Daejeon High Court, right? So the appeal trial of Sunseam, president of CGM, was held in the morning in the third criminal division of the Daejeon High Court. And remember, the judge presiding over it is a different judge in the first trial. His name is Judge Kim Byung-sik. And intense arguments ensued over the analysis results of an audio file which a Hong Kong female believer, which is Maple, claimed to have recorded at the scene of the incident. Now, in the previous hearing, the court commissioned two specialized institutions, including the Supreme Prosecutor's Office, to verify the audio file in consideration of fairness. However, the court reported that both institutions responded by stating that it was impossible to analyze a copy of the file without the original. Furthermore, the court informed that the burden of proof for evidence admission lies with the prosecution and stated that if the evidence is not properly substantiated, then the evidentiary capability of the audio file may be excluded, which means they can no longer use it as real evidence. So Sunseam's defense submitted the results of private appraisals conducted by two external specialized institutions prior to the public appraisal, and in response, the prosecution questioned the qualifications of the appraisal institutions and appraisers. The defense countered by asserting that the institutions and appraisers are sufficiently credible and stated that they would submit supporting evidence to back this claim. Now, according to reports, the institution commissioned by the defendant for the audio analysis is known to be a specialized institution in South Korea composed of experts with doctoral degrees who specialize in audio analysis. Now, according to the private appraisal results, multiple male voices other than the defendants were identified. Even without the original file, making a public appraisal impossible, the private appraisal is still crucial in proving the inconsistency and lack of credibility in the complainant's testimony. Now, Sunseem's defense emphasized the necessity of verification. After the trial, Sunseem's defense attorney stated that the defendant's innocence is certain. Right, so this is awesome, that the lawyers are coming out after every trial saying Sunseem is innocent. It's certain that he's innocent. The attorney informed the press that they would file complaints against the parties involved based on the 97-minute audio recording, the voice analysis report of the audio file aired on Netflix's In the Name of God, A Holy Betrayal, and the complainant's false statements, etc. After the trial on the 25th, Sunseem's defense attorneys from the law firm of Kim Young explained the details of today's trial to reporters and CGM members who were waiting at the main gate, followed by a question and answer session with the press. At the press conference on that day, Sunseem's defense attorney stated, since the audio recording file was used as a crucial piece of evidence in the first trial, if its evidentiary capability is invalidated in the second trial, it would generally favor the defendant. However, it is uncertain whether discrediting the evidentiary capability of the file would undermine the overall credibility of the remaining testimonies, right? So remember that this is one of the crucial evidence that was submitted. But if all of a sudden now they're saying that there's no original file, so now we're not going to even accept this as evidence at all, that is always going to, like in this case, that is a benefit for Sunseem, 100%. But the bigger case now is, what the lawyer is saying is, but there are other people with testimonies. So is it going to be enough to discredit the other people's testimonies, right? So let's continue with the article. It says, furthermore, the lawyer from the law firm that's representing Sunseem stated, if it is confirmed that the audio recording file has been edited or manipulated, ultimately the credibility of the complainant's entire testimony will be called into question. Moreover, we cannot exclude the possibility of their actively pursuing a planned complaint to frame Sunseem as a criminal. Therefore, we will also address this aspect proactively, which means that we can also go in and sue them if we find this out. Now, in response to questions from the press regarding the imminent verdict on July 25th, so that's when the verdict is supposed to come out, and whether the verdict deadline seems tight, considering the additional witness examination process and the verification procedure for the audio recording file, it was stated that, as a principle, if the trial does not conclude before the expiration of the detention term on August 15th, it is appropriate to release the defendant on bail, which is great, because that means that if this is extended, Sunseem can be released on bail, and they're going to be probably requesting this because Sunseem's been there for the extension. It's supposed to be only 6 months, which ends on August 15th. But the lawyers are saying it is appropriate that we can release Sunseem on bail from August 15th, which would be incredible. I think that would be incredible and amazing too. Right? However, the current wish of the defense is to not be limited by the expiration of the detention period, but rather they hope that the trial proceedings will continue beyond the detention period if necessary to ensure the defendant's right to a fair and complete trial, which also means that, it's supposed to end on July 25th, but it looks like because there's more witnesses and such, it's going to extend even longer than July. So we might be thinking even August, September, maybe even October that this trial can be extended. Now, this is what I talked about last week, or was it this week, about, remember I talked about that article that was talked about in, what's it called? The Center for Studies of New Religions, and someone did an article based on Sunseem's trial, right? So while this, I talked about this on Monday, but while this appeal trial is going on, so what the article says is, there is controversy over the Netflix documentary In the Name of God, which has essentially turned into a trial by public opinion. Recently, this is great, an issue has arisen following the presentation of a research paper at the Center for Studies of New Religions, one of the major global religious studies conferences, critiquing the unfairness and errors in Netflix's documentary series In the Name of God, particularly focusing on Sunsteam, right? So this article is particularly focusing on Sunsteam's episodes, those first three. So there's a Dr. Lee Jin-myung who presented at the Center for Studies in New Religions conference held in Bordeaux, France, right? And basically his topic was fake news, legal trials, and the role of media, the case of the Providence Church and Netflix's In the Name of God, is known to have analyzed and discussed the impact of fake news on religion, specifically focusing on Sunsteam's episode on Netflix. Now, this doctor conclusively labeled In the Name of God as fake news, conclusively, because his analysis of the broadcast revealed serious instances of fabrication, editing, and intentional distortion. Through numerous examples, this doctor presented evidence of manipulation and editing in the series In the Name of God, showing how the broadcast content led to erroneous conclusions in misleading direction. And on that day when Dr. Lee Jin-myung presented it, he also addressed suspicions during his paper presentation about why the producer chose to air it on Netflix instead of NBC, raising questions about the motivations behind the decision. Right? For instance, here's some of the things that he wrote about. Firstly, distributing it through the global distribution channels could have significantly raised awareness of the film. Secondly, considering the accusations of edited content could lead to legal action, choosing overseas distribution over domestic might have been seen as a safer option given the ease of legal action. Thirdly, the biggest reason analyzed was the decision received from the Press Arbitration Commission on August 2nd, 2005. So this is a court proceeding and a decision in 2005. According to the decision, it states they cannot reuse or produce content that was broadcast on SBS in 1999, 2002, or 2004. Secondly, they cannot produce broadcasts with information that has been reported from two people, right? From the anti-JMS group, which includes KDH. However, most of the content broadcast in the Netflix documentary is based on material previously aired on SBS or information obtained from KDH, who is from an anti-JMS force. So this Dr. Lee claimed that by producing and distributing through global distributors, they are unaffected by these constraints, and they aired to circumvent the issues, violating the Press Arbitration Commission's directives. So on that day, the court announced that it would give the final verdict for Sunsteam's second trial on July 25th. However, Sunsteam's defense attorneys requested sufficient time for trial proceedings to ensure the defendant's right to a fair trial, as additional witness examinations and the final appraisal results for the audio recording had not concluded yet. So this is a great article from jmsprovidence.com, guys. I think you guys will really, really enjoy this one. This one just came out on June 26th. All right. And I will actually put this, document into the description below so you guys can read it yourself, but it's awesome. So now you guys have an even better idea of what actually happened during the trial and how confident the lawyers are that Sunsteam is innocent. The lawyers are confident. They're not even Providence member. Like, one of the lawyers is not even a Providence member. Either way, all right? So I did want to go over that, make sure that you guys got that quickly, and I'll put the article up in the description below also, all right? So there it is, guys. That is segment number 1 for today. Hope you guys really enjoyed it on this wonderful Friday, which means before we get into today's Wednesday Message Word Study, let's get into the first music break of the day.
Just like the rest, I walked in death, not knowing the value of a single breath. My pride was the biggest prize I had to protect, walking around high and mighty, sticking out my chest. Calling the shots like I know what's best, living how I like, but I piled up a debt. Outside's alive and aware the inside is dead, and suddenly truth shine just like the dawn. All things in life I knew 0%, then I realized how far I was gone. Wasn't right about anything, I was dead wrong. Everything thought to be reality was a fallacy. My life wasn't great, it was a tragedy. All I knew was fake, I thought I'm losing my sanity. All the while gazing at me was the Trinity, looking with love, grace, and mercy. Patiently working consistently with me, and eventually brought me to the new history. I learned about someone new whom they used. He worked with heaven and I learned his stories. He is living proof that the Bible's words are true. On the scene at 15, splitting every single seam. God's words flow from him like he's a stream, preaching to the point that even his throat would bleed. The most impressive person I have ever seen. Him speaking the truth revealed everything to me. Parables, holy son, soul entity, spiritual universe. Frankly, I don't think he's done. He's taught me 1,000 tons, too much for a single verse. This is so amazing to the point I may burst. I'm sure he's the one the Bible said would come. Where else would this earth-shattering word come from? Then I really realized he is the Messiah, sent to the world and raised humanity a level higher. Didn't come to destroy, but the word is the fire. Amen to the very end, my faith won't expire. He's been going 79 years and hasn't tired. Due to that condition, the greatest blessing we've acquired. Between him and the Trinity, that time was finally captured. I'm sure now that they got their bride, nothing can match her. Rapture, that's what we received. Was evangelized, lectured, managed, now I believe. Never knew this was something I could achieve. Your blessings really flow endlessly. I promise you, I'll never leave. So I'll stay with you to the death of me. With you I've fulfilled my destiny. Now I'll reboot, give you the best of me. Offering my youth, running even faster. For me and so many, you're not just a pastor. You're the shepherd over all these pastures. King of kings, Lord of lords, that's for sure. We're a perfect match, a hand and a glove. The atmosphere in the air is full of love. Came from above to hold the banquet. So I'll GGG eternally for 316. Just cause I was swept into the net of the word, heard and learned, doesn't mean it's over yet. I really need to look at myself and reflect. Line up against God's perfect law and check. All my flaws need to be resolved. Be bold to slanderers when I try to call. Like him, I'm thankful for tribulations, cause I didn't fall. With the rapture, I'm standing tall. The love they give is truly priceless. If I'm not with the Lord, life enters crisis. Without him, I'm a ship that's wrecked to pieces. So I'll always eat the word. Box of Reese's, stick to him, red blood cell and Reese's. I praise God for sending son, sing him, and Jesus. He had a plan for them before they were a fetus, to reveal to the world heaven's deep secrets. With his name, bring the pain, breaking Satan's noses. With the Lord's condition, let's show him a comatosis. While looking at heaven, never losing focus, conversing in our thoughts every single moment. Then a spiritual rapture will never be stolen. If you only see strife, come see what peace is. If you want to know heaven, come and see this. If life were an essay, this is the thesis. Rapture, that's what we received. Was evangelized, lectured, managed, now I believe. Never knew this was something I could achieve. Your blessings really flow endlessly. I promise you, I'll never leave. So I'll stay with you to the death of me. With you I've fulfilled my destiny. Now I'll reboot, give you the best of me. Offering my youth, running even faster. For me and so many, you're not just a pastor. You're the shepherd over all these pastures. King of kings, Lord of lords, that's for sure. We're a perfect match, a hand and a glove. The atmosphere in the air is full of love. Came from above to hold the banquet. So I'll GGG eternally for 316. Remember, this wasn't given for free, so always hear the word and do good deeds. Praising those that saved us is an amazing thing, and live with them in love. 1 John 3:18. Be like him, always run on God's team. If you live like him, you'll surely succeed. Believe him, absolutely, and gotta let you pass. If you want the greatest salvation, walk this only path.
All right, so let's get into today's Wednesday message word study. Crazy short message on Wednesday, but super deep, right? I kept highlighting so many parts of the message. I really enjoyed it. And some parts were, it made me think even more deeply about our lives, you know, as we go through our lives in Providence, and understanding who, you know, how we're supposed to live our lives too, right? So great message. It's about taking action with faith. New verse is Romans 14:23. But whoever has doubts is condemned if they eat, because their eating is not from faith. And everything that does not come from faith is sin. right? And some of this reminds me of some of the funny things that I've heard as people I talk to some people in Southeast Asia because, there's a lot other religions here. Like you'll see like these small little temples where people will worship and stuff like that. And they even put up food and stuff, right? But very, very interesting. And I hope it's something that you guys will, I enjoyed this message. The intro was awesome, right? And I like it how the beginning talked about how the word is, there's like word that's like kind of like evergreen word. Like, when I'm someone who's in YouTube, there are some things called evergreen topics. And evergreen topics are topics that everyone wants to listen to all the time, which basically means that one of the biggest searched things on the internet is, what is Christianity? Like, that's a big one. That's an evergreen topic that many people over decades will continuously want to listen to all the time, right? And then you're going to have certain topics that are only about the time right now. For instance, Israel and Palestine, they're fighting with each other, and there's a big war going on, and people are going to be asking, why is Israel and Palestine fighting right now, kind of thing, right? And that's going to be something that's more pertinent to this time right now. And I like how the word says, when the word is given to us every Sundays, every pre-dawn, every Wednesday message, not all of it is evergreen material. Some of it is very, very time sensitive, and it really depends on, it's something that depends on what you do right now. It depends on the environment you're in. It depends on the time that you're living in. It pertains to, when the word comes out, some things are about right now. When God says, pray now, like this is something you really need to pray about, it can only be done right now at this moment in time. And once that time passes, that word will no longer it will no longer be like, it won't be something that will actually work anymore, right? So like even one thing that the word said is when it's time that pertains to the word, keep that law. If you don't, it becomes a sin. However, once that time passes, it will not be a sin even if you don't do it, right? That is something that I find very, very interesting. And something that we have to understand is some things like we hear in the word are telling us not to do it only for the time we're in right now. Like, I'm going to be very honest and specific is there are some things that are said, there are some things that we're told not to do because Sunseem's in a trial. It's very different. But after the trial, everything goes back to normal again, kind of thing. You know what I mean? So there are always things that matter now but don't matter later. For instance, if you think about this from a very extreme case, how about if, say, you're in your, have you seen the movie A Quiet Place, where you have to be quiet because the aliens can only hear noise, and if they hear the noise, they'll run to it and they'll kill you, right? However, imagine you're in that place where those aliens are around. So what happens? Well, when those aliens are around, you can't say anything. So your parents are like, shut up. You can't say anything. But then later they kill all the aliens. Then you can say whatever you want. Do you know what I mean? Like, situation and circumstance changes everything. Sunseem being in his situation right now is very different than, let's say, all the trials finish. And Sunseem, this is just an example. Let's say that all the trials finish. And when all the trials finish, there are things that, that we are supposed to, just not say, and then now we're able to say it again. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's always a time and circumstance. There's things that could be sin at that time, but then as time moves on, it's no longer sin, even if you did it, right? So I think that's something that's a very, very powerful thing that we have to think about. We do. And I hope it's something that all of us will really be able to understand, that there's always a time and place for everything. There's always a situation and circumstance that we need to understand. And of course, I think the one thing that Sunseem said very, very clearly was, guess what? Don't forget, the basics are always needed regardless of time. Like the basics of our faith, the basics of, like Sunseem said, the 10 Commandments, needed at every time. God's absolute love is absolute in every time period. However, customs are different for each time period. Even customs are different, right? The way people are, the culture, those different things, they change with time. And I think that is something that is super, super helpful for all of us, especially in countries outside of Asia, outside of Korea. People do things differently. Our customs are different. Like, let me give you an example, right? When you go to Asia, you don't really, when Providence people meet each other, they don't hug each other, do they? No. But when you go to another country like Europe, they kiss each other on the cheek. That's a custom. You can't change. Sunsim even said to them, I couldn't even change the customs after thousands of years. You can't change it. That's a custom. That's the way they do things. It's very, very different, right? Even in America, when you meet a friend, you hug them. That's a normal thing. There's no high fives. There's like no just bowing, right? It's very, very different. Customs are different from culture to culture. Some things are not as important, which you can change, and some things you can. But I think that's something that we have to really recognize, right? There's some things that you can't change, and some things that are going to be different from culture to culture. Like, think about the things like, what about heaven's culture? Heaven's culture is there's always a central figure at every time period that you have to believe in God centering on that person. That's normal. That's not going to change. That is an absolute truth that's going to stay as long as we're in our bodies, right? So I looked at that and was like, yeah, there's, Sansim even said there are things that are not sins, even if you do them, if it's something you want within God's will. What does that mean? And there are things that will cause you loss if you don't do them, even though not doing them may not be a sin. So I think it's something like, I like it because Sunseem talks about this and we're like, what does that mean? But Sunseem slowly but surely begins to explain step by step how this is possible, right? For instance, and one example Sunseem said is when you're a child, you're drinking milk, right? You drink milk like a child, right? And then when you grow up, you eat solid food. And think about this. There are some things that you're forbidden to do when you're a child, but you're told to do when you're fully grown up. Right? And at that time, when you're fully grown up, not doing what you're told to do is a loss and it becomes a sin. Love too. You're told not to do it when you're a child, but are told to marry when you're grown up and mature. You are absolutely forbidden from using knives when you're children, but are told to use them when you grow up. Right? Yeah, it all depends on, and this has to do with, are you mature and growing up in faith? And that's something that I think, that's a lot of the things that I talk about here on this podcast. And a lot of times people are thinking only in the child level is, no, we're told never to, no, never, 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 never. But you have to realize, no, when you grow up, there are some things that you can do that you couldn't do when you were younger. There are. It's part of growing up in life. It is, right? Look at the Bible. The way God treated Moses, with the way God treated Jesus is different from the way that he treated the followers. God's law is different for each time period, different from level of maturity, different according to level of faith, to your missions. It's all different, right? And I thought that was something that's, even though it's so reasonable and so obvious, I would say it's an obvious thing. It's not something where you're like going, no, like, do you think it would be right for a head leader to treat someone who is a father or mother in their 40s or 50s like a Milky Way? Would that make sense? And the answer is no way. There's no way you treat someone like that because they're mature. They're an adult. They can make up their own mind. They're not children anymore, right? And that's something that we have to recognize and realize in this history. And what I'm saying is, if we don't have the capacity to discern this in our lives, that is what you call regular, normal discernment of your daily life. But if we become too caught up in the rules, if we're way too caught up in them, what happens is you end up treating everyone like SS and Milky Way, which is not the way to do it, right? And that's why this message I looked at and said, it's so important for people to realize and understand this, right? Like, even the same thing is not sin if it's in the Lord, but is sin when it's outside the Lord. Now, of course, this is not talking about committing the fall and doing stuff like this, right? It's something that we have to understand at a much different level, right? So sometimes even the same thing is not a sin according to the new laws, but is a sin according to the old laws. There's one way of looking at it, which means in the Old Testament time, you're not allowed to eat pork. But in the New Testament time, it's not sin. It's the same God you're believing in, but you're going to have one thing that is in the Lord. When you believe in Jesus, it's okay. Just go ahead, eat the pork. You've realized at a new level, but it is a sin when you're not in Christ if you start eating pork, because it's against conscience, against what you believe in, right? So the Holy Spirit said this in one part of the message, right? In God's presence, the things you have done may be righteousness according to your merits. If you have no merits, they become a sin. The same is true for the nation. All of these apply individually. The law of a prophet is different than the law of a Messiah. Even if the new time period has come, it does not pertain to everyone. And it's not that it does not pertain to everyone. When you break it down, you'll see that some of them pertain and some of them don't pertain. Not doing with faith what should be done with faith is sin, right? And this is kind of just an education for people to grow up and to mature. Understand yourselves really well. Yes, do this with SS, with Milky Way. But I would say that when you get to nearing the end of your campus time, you better start growing up into an adult. When you're 21, you should already be coming into an adult, making your own decisions. You don't need someone to tell you you can or cannot do this. I think that would be very, very unfair. That if people hold or leadership holds something over someone at 21, 22, they need to start learning to become adults, right? We do things according to our faith, right? Eating food sacrificed to idols with faith is not sin. And not eating it does not make it righteous either, right? What you have done is your responsibility. Because the reason why I say this, because I know that sometimes you're going to have these, people are going to ask these questions about, my parents worship this, their ancestors, or they worship some Taoism, some God, some Buddha, whatever it is. And then after, they'll take the food and they'll eat it. Am I allowed to eat this? And it's done in faith. Everything is done within your faith, right? You can't say to someone, ooh, you ate food sacrificed to an idol? That sounds very, very Old Testament to me, right? You have to think about this very carefully, and the freedom that we receive being in the new history. Just like John chapter 13, was it John 13:32 says, then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. It sets us free where, think about the people at the time of the New Testament, all their lives they could not eat pork. And that's why when God showed Peter all these animals and God says eat, he's like, how I cannot dare. And he's like, no, don't make what God has made clean unclean. And then he realizes and he understands, no, I can eat this now, right? There are some things are forbidden for people to do when they're young, but they're allowed to do it when they're mature, right? In the world of faith too, right? So talk about faith, things about faith too. There are things that are okay to do when your faith is perfect, but when you do them while being imperfect in faith, they are sins and cause you to be tested when you do them, right? These are things these are things that we really need to think about deeply. And like I said, we're not talking about those absolute sins like committing the fall, like doing those types. No, we're not talking about those things at all, right? It's not those types of sins, right? It's those, it's the things that we think about. It's like, oh, I'm not allowed to do this. But later on, you're allowed to do it. Why? Because you're more mature. You can handle yourself, right? You take your own responsibility. In the past, when you're young, there is someone who is responsible for you, and that's why they control you, right? However, there comes a time in life where you are now an adult that even like you are going to be the one that pays the consequences. And if you listen to someone else, you can't turn and say, well, that person told me to do it. No, it's your responsibility when you become an adult, right? It's such a like a masterclass lesson on maturing and discerning. Like, well, look at this one thing that was in the message. Once the time and half time, the appointed time by God passes, something that was forbidden to do until yesterday is not a sin starting from today, even if you do it. We have to realize, right? For people who are, who are like, think about the situation when you have Cain's and Abel's, right? So in the message it said Cain's must refrain, but Abel's can do it. They're like, what? It is true. Abel could give the sacrifice, but God would not accept it from Cain. So only Cain can give the sacrifice, but only Abel can give the sacrifice, but Cain cannot. Cain's must not offer the sacrifice, but they must do it through Abel. It is centered on Abel, right? It's centered on the new history. That's why even when I think about it right now, you remember there's a topic I'm going to talk about soon on the Rebel Pastor. We're going to talk about women in ministry. Women in ministry is still argued about right now. Can women be head leaders? And I don't think it's something that we should just take lightly and just say to people, come on, it's just culture. Oh, come on, we're in a new time right now. I think that is one of the worst things that you can say to prove that women should be in leadership and ministry. Because if you think about this week's message, it's like, hey, guess what? Some things in the old time period are not allowed, but they're allowed in the new time period, right? It'll be a sin then, but not a sin now if you're in the new time period, right? The wicked are not given the right to do the things that the righteous do. And this is true not just for faith, it's truth for many things. God gives the righteous authority, right? And made the kingdom of righteousness prosper when they took action, right? God did not give the authority to the wicked. So that's why when the wicked do it, like sacrificing when they shouldn't, it becomes sin and they get punished for it. God made the deeds of the wicked become sins. And that's something we have to recognize. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to repeat this over and over again. I am not talking about the sins that are absolute. It's not saying that you can, you're going to go start stealing, going to start murdering. No, we're not talking about these things. We're not talking about like the fall and these different types of things or betraying the Lord. No, all these things it's not talking about. But it's the things that we're going through in life that we can handle as we mature. It is common sense and absolute reason. It is. Right? Just the way it is. So I think that's something that we have to recognize as older, mature people of this history. Jesus said in the message, the righteous live while going through various sufferings due to doing righteous deeds. Their suffering is like scorpions stinging their tongue. They go through it as a result of the wicked. The wicked must all be destroyed. All of you should be one. Pray and fight the good fight of truth justly. Everyone who disbelieved and betrayed God and his will became wicked people, even though God loved them in the past before they became corrupt. He turns his heart away from them due to their wickedness according to their deeds and treats them that way. It's because evil rots, right? Which basically means that this is why if you really want to have heaven, the only way is to eliminate evil. That's the only way. Right? Anything to do with Satan, anything to do with evil, all the people that are on his side, that's why they go to the eternal hell. And this is why, one of the reasons why, the Bible says that the reason why the Savior came was to stop the works of the devil, to get rid of evil. Right? And if you think about it, if you look at all the things that happened in 2023, one of the things that were so bad that we all look at and we're angry about is when they take out these innocent people with them. And that's the punishment they're going to have to pay for taking out other people, punished for tens of thousands of years if they don't repent for it, right? Because what they did was they took God's people away. That's not something just easily taken, that's going to be torment. They tormented the righteous. They took away these innocent people from God. And that's why they're punished. We have to realize this. The Holy Spirit also said in the message that, what was the other one? It said, focusing everything on living with God and the Lord is beneficial rather than only cursing the sinners and the wicked or getting angry. And I think that's something that Sussy talked about in the past during the time of the rapture. He says, if you're on the train of rapture, and all of a sudden as you make a stop at a station, there's dogs barking at you, don't get out of the train and start like beating or trying to rebuke those dogs that are barking. Stay in the train and move forward, which is focus on living with God. Focus on living with the Lord. That is way more beneficial than cursing the wicked and cursing the sinners, right? The wicked are going to be wicked, and we got to be those that move forward, right? There was one part when Sunstein talked about going to the spiritual world, and he sees the people suffering in the spiritual world, and he says, the rules are that even the Savior sent by God can only watch these people in suffering. Right? And their opportunity has already ended. So even the Savior cannot do anything about it. But here's the interesting part. He says, it could have worked out if they believed in God just a little more, right? If they believed in the Savior just a little more. But they lived their own lives, their own way instead, paying attention to righteousness, right? And when, Sunstein said in the spiritual, he saw their spirit suffering. He said, it was shown to me that even after 100 years pass, there is no one who will lead them out, and even God does not think about them. That's how it is. This is what happens when we leave God's domain of grace and truth. Immediately people become off balance. They change into different people. And we see that with the people in 2023. They're different people now. Right? So, we have to understand the time period we're living in right now is the last time period. Right? The last time period of God's religious history, the complete testament. And God has permitted, God has blessed us with many things. And there are things that we can do differently. We are permitted to do things differently than the former faith. But remember, this message is saying it is your faith, your responsibility. You know what that sounds like? This is basically God straight up telling us, you're an adult. It's about your faith and your responsibility. It's not about me pressuring people into coming to pre-dawn, pressuring people to do this or that. It's my responsibility. The direction you should take is always presented to you through the Word. So I hope you will pay attention to the Word, look at things deeply, and take action. Powerful message. Absolute amazing message. I thought it was powerful. And I hope it's something that you guys will realize even more. I really enjoyed that message. And I thought it was such an important message that we all had to think about right now too. Either way. All right. So there it is, guys. That is today's Wednesday message word study. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions or any things you want to add, go ahead, let me know. Any comments, put in the comments below. Would love to hear that too. All right. So there it is, guys. That is the end of today's, what did I just say? Oh yeah, end of today's Wednesday message word study. Hope you guys really enjoyed it. If you have any questions or anything else, let me know. And would love to hear your thoughts on this too. All right. So before we get into the final segment of today and the entire week, it is Until the End with Daniel Baker. Let's get into the last music break of the day.
Sincerely I pray, please forgive all my sins. Please forgive me, please don't leave my side. Take me as your own. If alone I wander, death will carry me away. Anxiously, won't you, Lord, wash my sins away? Lord, if you make me clean. I'll live my life only
Okay, so let's get into our final segment of the day and the entire week. We look forward to this. This is always done very well. I'm very thankful and grateful and proud of Daniel for all that he's doing. Let's welcome Daniel Baker all the way from South Korea with Until the End.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Do It Until the End podcast. I hope everyone is having an amazing week with the Trinity. Let's have an amazing rest of the week together. Now, it's a Friday, right? And this is the one things that I kind of miss as when I was, younger and, I was in school and everything. Fridays were the best. You had 2 days off on the weekends. You had time to play. You had time to do whatever you needed to do because the weekends were there. The end was near. But now as I'm, doing my caddying job, a lot of my work now seeps into the weekends. And it's quite unfortunate that this is the case, but, a lot of my weekends are spent working on the course. Now, because I'm on the course even on the weekends, it's very easy, I realize, to really get caught up in the work, really get caught up in the different amount of struggles I have in life. And it's very easy to do that. Now, I kind of realized why weekends were really good because of that. It gives you time to reflect. It gives you time to take a minute and really think and give glory to God, go to church. That's why weekends are so amazing. But the one thing I really realized that I need to do if I'm I don't have weekends right now. What I need to do is take some time to reflect. And the best thing we can reflect on right now that kind of grounds us to our reality is to think about and confess to the Trinity what we are most thankful for. And let's do a practice right now. I want everyone who's listening right now, including Pastor Sky, if he's listening, to write 3 things that you are grateful for in the comments. And it can be anything. It can be small things, big things, major things. I want to see what everyone is thankful for. And for me, the first thing that I'm really thankful for right now is that the 선생님's case is seemingly doing better. If in the past it was kind of a dire situation, there was a pretty good chance that there was going to be an unfortunate event happening. Right now, it becomes more like an even. If the percentages was like 80-20, now the percentage is like 60-40. It's slowly turning in our favor. So that's the first thing I'm really thankful for. The second thing I'm thankful for is I'm able to make money at my job. It's not an easy job. It's not, and I kind of realized this today. I was like, man, it's getting super hot right now. And I was like, yeah, well, who would golf in this weather? It's like super hot. It's like 30, 32 degrees, 33 degrees, and everyone's sweating. Everyone's like drinking super cold water. It's like, why would anyone try to golf? But because God really sent these people for me to really meet these people, I'm able to make money and I'm able to provide for myself. And that's something that I'm very thankful for. And I'm really thankful for that's, it's connected to my second one that I'm not meeting like super bad people. Fortunately, I'm not meeting people who cuss at me, people who chew me out, people who are like super stingy and they're like, oh, my feelings. Ooh, you hurt my feelings. I'm going to destroy your reputation. And, I've seen these people and thankfully, those people give me, and majority of the caddies, they give people a lot of stress, but God really made sure that I'm not close to those people. I haven't seen those kinds of people in like months now, and I'm truly thankful for that. Now, the third thing I'm truly thankful for is a sense of urgency within my life. Now, as I have this job, there are some paths that I'm going to have to really think about and pray with the Trinity and it's like a kind of an urgent event that is going to happen in a couple weeks. And, as I have this urgent situation, which is my citizenship, it was just related to my citizenship, I've been able to really think and kind of have this urgency like I haven't had before. In the past, because of things like COVID and just being lazy after being in college, and then after a while I've been productive, but sometimes after a while I get unproductive and my urgency goes down. But right now I'm in a massive urgent state. I am hyper focused on what's going to happen in the future. I am really trying to connect with the Trinity and pray, and I really am thankful for this situation, even though it might be a stressful situation ultimately. But these situations really get me on my feet. I'm really looking forward to reading everyone's comments about what 3 things they're thankful for at the moment. And, being thankful is something that really, it's a good habit to have, and it keeps you in a positive mindset. It really makes sure that you are grounded to reality. You don't want to get to the point within your life where the different kind of situations and the stress and the uncomfortable tribulations, you don't want them controlling your life. And you kind of have to, after a while, I've kind of realized that I need to take back control. And this is something that I kind of realized recently. So I hope everyone has an amazing rest of the week with the Trinity. And to everyone who goes until the end, let's walk this path together. Peace out, guys. Bye-bye.
And thank you so much, Daniel, for another wonderful episode of Until the End. Very grateful and thankful once again. You've been doing this for such a long time. I'm really encouraged to see, how responsible and how amazing you've been doing this and how consistent you are too. And I hope to be able to do more things together with you in the future also. All right. So there it is, guys. That is the end of today's Friday podcast. I hope you guys have an amazing and awesome weekend. Enjoy your Sunday service, and we'll see you guys again in July, I guess. Is it July? Is it going to be July already in the next time we meet? That would be kind of cool if it was already July, because it's the 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th. Wow, Monday is going to be July 1st. That's going to be so cool. All right, guys. Looking forward to seeing you guys again. Everyone, have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you guys again on Monday on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, I'm on the Morning Star Drive, I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this.